Oh, that's interesting. Why Magic doesn't suck anymore. I guess Magic doesn't suck anymore. Okay, cool. Let's check it out. Page 6. Here we go. I recently discovered a 7-player Chaos game for the first time in years. Okay, interesting. Hardly cause for applause. But watching my opponents play games with gating creatures, seeing morphs, create mass confusion, and abusing Mind Slicer, Migrim, Spirit Came combos. Interesting. Gosh, this game used to suck. Okay, that's a gross overstatement. But looking back over a decade of Magic makes one appreciate the work of Wizards of the Coast design team. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Every 4 months, not only are we blessed with cards that beat the pants off of old stuff, Power 9 notwithstanding. Interesting point, okay. But we get new abilities to use and abuse. Huh. I see where this is going. When I started flopping cards back in the revised days, yeah, I remember those days. Dragon Whelp was a powerhouse. Tossing 4 Holy Strengths on a Savannah Alliance was a good play. Every deck ran 4 Juggernauts, and Sarah Angel was the closest thing to game over on the scene. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And card mechanics, well, banding was the best of them all. What have we come to, ladies and gentlemen? How has Magic evolved over 2 decades where banding was considered a good mechanic? Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I will tell you that Magic the Gathering doesn't suck anymore. That's all I got. You're still here? Usually when I'm talking, that's when people click away. But I'm shocked. That's all I have for the video. You were expecting more? Well, grab some popcorn and I'll tell you why Magic doesn't suck anymore. Well, it feels like yesterday that Pioneer was the hottest fad in MTG and Modern took a backseat in R&D's attention. Just 2 years later, and Modern hasn't quite bit the dust. In fact, with dedicated sets such as Modern Horizons, a lot of the new, emphasis on new, and unique cards have actually retained their value. Cards such as Renin 6 and Force of Negation, very popular in the Modern format, but also in Vintage and Legacy. So why is Modern considered in such disarray? Well, with cards such as Rudy's ex-wife, Lily, selling like wildfire, and Caverns of Souls retaining prices of over $50 per card, and demand for reprints of Aether Vials, it's kind of hard to predict where Modern is going. Well, amidst all the confusion and hysteria, there may be some hope for Modern as a format and Magic to move forward and not suck anymore. Well, I'm glad you asked, Timmy. I will definitely tell you why I believe there's hope for Modern. You see, the phrase Modern MTG has been slowly seeing increases on the Google search trends, partly because of the new and exciting themed sets that Wizards of the Coast has announced. This is hopeful to reinvigorate the Modern format and many of its archetypes, but for players to playtest the new deck constructions, they would need to buy the singles. Well, if they still have them, they'll use them. If not, they'll buy them off the market. Well, the market's kind of barren right now. It's not in the prettiest state, and a lot of the cards are not actually abundant, believe it or not. A lot of the booster boxes, unfortunately, have seen price increases, so for you to actually crack open those cards from the booster boxes will cost you a pretty penny over just buying the singles. So with that situation, say you're going for Aether Veil from Iconic Masters, those boxes are going anywhere from $250 to $300, and the expected value from a set like that is less than $150. So you would just buy the singles. Well, now with demand flooding back into the modern market, you might actually see some price increases. But is it true for across the board for all the modern staples? Well, not really. For the ones that made it through these tough times for modern, well, they'll retain their values. They'll probably have bottomed and continue to slowly rise as demand begins to divert to those cards. But the cards that keep getting reprints that are commons and uncommons, well, that's where you apply the KPIs. Remember, just because the first KPI is demand for the game doesn't mean that you should not combine all the KPIs that I mentioned in my single card market video collectively. So of course, with abundance in the common uncommon slot, by natural law of supply and demand, those, well, it is what it is. But the cards like Caverns, where back in the day you only get 2 to 3 mythics per box, yeah, those will continue to hold their price, especially when they're seen in many different decks. So this is the first scenario we have in the state of modern. Well, where Wizards of the Coast is making a game that doesn't suck anymore, and the new set releases sort of merge into the modern pool of cards, now you have new and exciting ways to actually play the game. Not to mention new mechanics to use and abuse. I believe Modern has reached an inflection point both with the player base count and the actual individual card prices, leaving Pioneer to be the affordable yet still competitive format of Magic the Gathering, accommodating to both new players and the existing community. This will mean that Wizards of the Coast will be focusing more on Pioneer legal cards to be victims of the reprint hammer. This will mean that Wizards of the Coast will be focusing more so on cards found in the modern legal Rolodex versus the modern exclusive cards. It feels like R&D has took a hard look at the state of the game as a whole during the pandemic and established new and improved communications with Magic the Gathering's biggest advocates, such as Marky Mark coming on Tolarian's channel to discuss the current state of the game. Another example is the critically acclaimed and infamous Gavin Verhey giving us an open look at the direction of R&D, and also with the introduction of his new YouTube channel. And last but not least, Wizards of the Coast announcing future set releases in this calendar year, one of which Modern Horizons 2. So maybe the future of Modern doesn't look so grim after all. In fact, I think they plan for it to be Legacy version 2.0. Perhaps that's Wizards of the Coast's memento for keeping Modern as an eternal format with continual support in the distant future. You also have Time Spiral Remastered, an exclusive set that will not actually be introduced in Pioneer and Standard, but Modern and other eternal formats. So, what cards were reprinted in Time Spiral Remastered? Not the ones you were hoping for. As you could see, a lot of the common and uncommons that are modern staples were the targets of reprints. I think Wizards is making a clear and obvious point with this statement, especially in the Time Spiral set. With that speculation, many ask, will there be a recovery with the modern card prices? Perhaps. I believe a lot of the heavy hitters and modern staples have sustained their value and reached their bottoms throughout the turmoil of the modern collapse. However, cards such as Path to Exile that are deemed for Pioneer as well as Standard will see the reprint hammer and actually sustain low prices. So, what does that mean for you as an investor? Well, there are some cards worth mentioning on the list, such as Caverns of Souls, that actually see a plethora of different deck constructions, and cards such as Path to Exile or Fatal Push that are actually modern staples, however, is fair game for Pioneer. With all that being said, I think history will repeat itself and Modern will see a boom in its card market. I think Pioneer will become the premier and accessible format of choice for newcomers as well as the existing player base. I think Wizards is slowly reinstilling confidence in many of the modern players, especially with the less and less reprints of modern staples. And with the introduction of new, emphasis on new, and exciting, unique cards that Modern actually will be able to utilize, hence in the upcoming Modern Horizons 2. Modern seems pretty hopeful, and Magic Gathering doesn't suck. So I hope you enjoyed my perspective on the state of Modern. If you did, leave a comment down below. If you didn't, still leave a comment down below. But before you do that, make sure you like and subscribe so you can see a lot more Jaymorz Collectibles.